Welcome to the Advancement Podcast. Our mission is to reach the lost in America by advancing leaders and churches so that communities are transformed. Join us as we discuss how to stay healthy as leaders, work in teams, and lead change. Come on, let's advance together.
Welcome back to the Advancement Podcast with Tim Ware, President of Advancement, and Todd Barham, pastor and leader of Hope Church in Cleburne, and myself, Taylor Show. It's good to be back with you guys from Mug on the Square. And then, today good plug there. We're going to be talking about transitions. And I'm looking forward to this episode and the ones that are going to come out of this. So it's good to see you guys.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
So let's just get right into something. Taylor's not at Mug on the Square.
He's not. And Taylor, can we make fun of Tim? He's drinking hot chocolate.
I think it's always appropriate to make fun of anyone who goes to a coffee shop and drinks hot chocolate.
Yeah. I ordered it for him, and the lady goes, does he want marshmallows or whipped cream? I go, yes, all of it.
Yes.
As has been said how many times, my wife has said the world does not need me on that much caffeine.
Dude, it calms you, man. You got ADD. It calms us.
Well,
I would like to see either way. I would like to see it.
I can't stand the taste.
Just one time. Do it for a coworker.
I have tried coffee multiple times in my life, and every time I walk away going, yuck.
Yeah, but what kind of coffee have you had?
Father help me, not that again.
You're probably drinking community coffee.
Everybody thinks they got a coffee I like. I've gone, how many pastors have said, oh, you need to try this one. And I've tried that one. And I've tried that one. And I tried that one.
We're filming with a coffee connoisseur in a few weeks. So I'm going to hit him up and see if he can bring something that you'll like.
I'll try. But, there are some things I have little hope for in this world. And liking coffee is one of them.
Yeah.
But you're trying to transition me to being a coffee drinker.
Well, either that or being a man. I mean, you're drinking hot chocolate with whipped cream.
Wow. Man, alive.
Well, guys, let's get back to transition.
Taylor's reeling us in there.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
So this is the first episode of the year that we're doing right now. This is the first episode of 2020. And
even though we have a Christmas tree.
What?
We have a Christmas tree in there.
Yeah. Well, I know we have a Christmas tree, but we're recording.
Okay.
Everybody knows we record ahead of time, and unless you're watching it.
We could have played this off and called it it's a Taylor scene where you put the Christmas tree up November 1st and you take it down end of January.
Oh, okay.
And that's true.
Yeah.
Taylor is always we were working together this weekend, and I used him as an example. I said to this church we were working with, I said, my belief is that you should decorate for Christmas. Taylor shares that belief.
Yeah.
But my value says you celebrate all the holidays and you don't decorate till after Thanksgiving. And Taylor's like, no, you get it out in October so you're ready November 1st.
That's right. We don't need the devil's holiday. Let's just go straight to Jesus.
What about Thanksgiving?
Yeah. Is Thanksgiving the devil's holiday? I'm just asking for a friend.
Yeah.
So anyway, here we are. Sometime during this season of this holiday season, I don't know if Taylor had his decorations up yet or not. He probably had them out of the attic. We did our annual evaluation of some things in advancement, and one of the things that we evaluated was the podcast, and we decided to make some changes coming into this year. So we always say one of the things that we teach guys is that a great time to make changes and transitions is at the beginning of the year because people expect things to be new.
Yeah.
So through the dialogue, through the conversations, there's a few things that we're excited that we're transitioning to in 2020. Number one, Taylor's going to be stepping into some new roles at his church and in some other things the Lord's doing, and even with advancement. So that's cool. And he's going to be stepping back. He may still show up on the podcast, but he's not going to be the regular co-host. It's now going to be this coffee drinking
The
fella.
stunner of a man.
No, I would not call him the stunner.
That's just what my wife calls me. I mean,
Oh, okay.
And she's the only person that calls him that.
I was going to say, Taylor, I looked for my Sagu polo and I couldn't find it this morning. And I apologize.
I will, as an official alumni board member, I will start sending you regular supply for the podcast.
I appreciate that, and I'll be happy to support my alma mater well. I'm still waiting for that alumni of the year nod.
I may have to make a transition to a non-SAGU person just to broaden our horizons.
Well, that way, I'm still waiting on my nod for the Alumni Hall of Fame or Alumni of the Year. Hadn't quite made it there yet.
I'll see what I can do at our next meeting.
Yeah, okay.
One of the other transitions that we're making going into 2020 is we're kind of changing the format. One of the things that in our evaluation and our metrics, guys, and if you're not evaluating, you need to evaluate things in your churches and in your ministries. We realize that we have more people listening than we have viewing through our Facebook stuff, through our YouTube things, and we don't want to ignore those audiences. But we decided that
we have faces made for radio.
I have so we have faces made for radio. But so we decided that we're going to put more energy into the audio component as opposed to the video component. So we're now going to be doing a new format. If you happen to be watching, we're recording by Zoom with guests. We're going to also plan on adding more guests into the mix, into the conversations. And so we're really excited about that transition. Todd has told me that he just wants to come on and make me mad all the time.
Well, yeah, because a mad Tim is a good Tim. I'm thinking back to the time that
I'm not sure I want that reputation. Taylor, I'm not at my best when I'm mad, am I?
Tim, when are you not mad?
Okay, so I want to tell a story. I want to tell a story. And I think this fits into transitions.
It's true.
Probably not. It probably doesn't fit it at all. But my very first cohort, a youth pastor, I don't remember who it was.
I do.
You do? Okay. Well, we won't say their name. And he squared off against Tim about the value of youth ministry.
Oh, boy.
And Tim turned red. I think I saw smoke coming out of his eyes, and he was doing his karate chop.
I did light him up pretty hard, didn't I?
You lit him up pretty hard.
I didn't light him up pretty hard. I lit him.
We're failing the kids of staying, Mama.
I did. He was struggling. He was struggling getting out of what has worked, and we're just going to do these things. And I remember because my kids were teenagers, and I said that my kids' generation was walking away from the church, and that his concept of youth ministry was putting my teenagers at risk, and I wasn't going to tolerate my kids being put at risk because of somebody's. I will say it better today than I said lack of innovative approach to making sure the gospel reached the next generation.
Yeah. Needless to say, he didn't come back to cohort after that.
He did come back.
That was a transition. It was a
transition moment for him.
It was.
Out of cohort.
It was. But, when I think but the real question is, so that's an example, an extreme example. But why is transition something we ought to talk about? Why is it important for us to talk about transition? And why should we make transitions in our churches and ministries? What are the things that catalyst those moments? We can use this as an example. One of the things that in the podcast, Taylor's been with me. Taylor and I have known each other forever. but part of the evaluation is, and this has been multiple people, including I've had multiple voices speak into this. They say you and Taylor are so alike that there wasn't a ton of that personality. There wasn't a lot of diversity in the approach.
Yeah.
And that's fair.
Well, y'all are both old souls,
I don't know that I like
Taylor. I will receive that. I will. Let me adjust my camera a little bit and just own this.
Oh yeah,
right there. Yeah.
For those of you who are watching
with your rusty AG sign,
and if you happen to be from an Assembly of God background, he has a rusty AG sign on the wall behind him.
It's sentimental more than anything.
But I think the reality is, first of all, one of the reasons we make transitions is because we evaluate and we realize when there's something we can move forward and things can be better. Not it hasn't changed mine and Taylor's relationship a bit.
Sure,
he's not being fired, but to collectively we say this is what's best for the kingdom.
Yeah.
So when we can identify something and keep it at the kingdom level and say, to advance Jesus's mission, this is the best way for us to do it. So let's if we need to make a transition, that doesn't always determine what kind of transition, but it gives us the place to say we need a transition here.
Yeah. Well, and we got to face it too. I mean, it's sometimes we don't make transitions just because some things need to change, but sometimes transitions are made because people move or they step down or need a break from the ministry and things like that. And so transitions, not always do we make them just because we want something to be better, but sometimes we make them because we have to. And we, especially as pastors, people don't give us any other choice.
So which type of transition is the most difficult? The one where you're left with no choice, or the one where you say we can do better, but we have to change something to do better? And a transition doesn't necessarily always mean personnel. It can mean process.
I think one thing as believers and church leaders and especially pastors and people who are in the position to make decisions upon transitions, whether with people or events or big ticket items, we have to remember that God is sovereign, and that our moment of transition doesn't catch him off guard.
Yeah, that's good.
Now, that doesn't always mean that it doesn't hurt or feel bad, or even, let's not even like because we've already addressed it. Transitions doesn't have to just be when someone leaves us. Yeah. It could be making a change in role or position, or hey, we used to do this event this way. We're still gonna, the heart of it's still gonna be there, but we're gonna do it differently. I just think it's what I'm learning with transitions. With the podcast, like there was a moment of like, I was a little bummed when we started getting all the feedback and going, well, man, I may not be a part of the podcast. I've loved doing this, but then I realized, number one, the podcast was I didn't sign up for this for me or to advance me. And then number two, the gospel is greater than my ability to be on a podcast. And then number three, it actually, what we got to experience, I hope we talk a little bit about when we talk about evaluation, me coming out of the podcast is going to allow a new voice, a fresh voice, but then also personally, it's going to put me in a different area of advancement that really I feel like I'm going to thrive better in. And so that transition is going to be great. So,
yeah, I think that as leaders, when we think transition, we think two things. Our first thought is about when our staff is transitioning or when the leaders below us are transitioning. And I think we often want to control that.
Yeah.
We want to have a tight control over that. And I don't know if that's, sometimes you have no control.
Yeah.
And I think that's the first thing, Taylor, what you said is really good about the fact that it doesn't catch God off guard. And we have to stop and say when it happens, and we're completely uncontrolled. It's completely out of our control. That's a moment of faith for us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's where we have to make it first. Transitions should always be a faith place.
Yeah. Well, especially when they're not planned.
Yeah.
I mean, and you asked the question, and I'm going to go back to it. Which one is easier? I think for me, it's easier. I mean, it's maybe easier in the short term, but not in the long term. Would people leave out of their own choice? You know, because one, I mean, you're sad and you mourn the loss of whoever is leaving. But then you kind of get over it pretty quick. Sometimes when you make the transition, as we did with this, it's a longer process. You have more personalities involved, and it can be a little bit more muddy. I mean, because when you do something, you never want to hear that you weren't the best person for the job.
Yeah.
And so, you know, sometimes thankfully Taylor handled that well, and he hasn't keyed my car or egged my house or anything yet.
Yeah, but that's just because when he comes to the Metroplex, people.
Oh yeah, he hasn't made the trip
Yeah, I'm
yet.
still trying to find Cleveland. I'm trying to find Cleveland on the map still.
Yeah.
Yeah, look, you found Bluffdale when you came to visit me. If you can find Bluffdale, you can find Cleveland.
Yeah.
We're just south of Fort Worth on the Chisholm Trail Parkway.
That's right. I think, but I think you're right about the fact that
all the Cleveland people are offended now. They're at Mug on the Square. They know where it is.
I didn't know where Mug on the Square was until last week. So this is new to me too. It's okay. But I think the reality is that transitions give us the opportunity to be intentional.
Yeah.
If someone leaves, there may be fewer opportunities for intentional choices than in transition moments.
Yeah.
Because when somebody leaves, if they leave of their own accord, then we get to be intentional about how, when, and what they're replaced with.
Yeah.
If they leave because of our choice, because we've fired them, there's an intentional piece on the front side. How are we going to send them out? How are we going to deal with that? And then you still have that other piece. And in the events like this, where there's roles are just changing, you have to. There's still a very intentional component to it.
Yeah.
I mean, here we are sitting doing this recording in December for January, but we had our meeting, we began having these evaluation meetings in September and October, so the transition has been in play, has been in process for a season to get us to here.
Yeah.
So when you're now you've had a number of transitions in your church, Todd. This year you've had 4 transitions.
Yeah, 4 transitions.
And Taylor, how many have y'all had? Whether it be people coming in or leaving.
And I can say in the last 18 months, there's been 7 people who have joined our team in a part-time or full-time capacity who were not at that level previously.
So you guys your transitions, Taylor, at y'all's church have been by addition.
Yeah.
And yours have all been by subtraction.
Yeah, mine have all been by subtraction. Now, for me, I mean, for us, it was a little bit needed. We kind of needed to clear out the culture. Now, not all of who left needed to be cleared out. Some of them left because they accepted positions elsewhere or felt they needed to take a break. But some of our subtractions, although they were hurtful, was something that we needed to kind of, and now our team that we're walking into 2020 with, now our team is more solid than ever, and we're more willing now to work together as a team rather than separated departments, and I think that's going to be great for us moving forward.
I think one of the difficulties when we talk about transition in churches is that church teams are so built and so relationships are such a big deal.
Yeah.
That there's a higher loyalty component. It's like being in a small business, not in a major corporation.
Yeah.
There's this high loyalty component. And when people leave, whether it be of their own accord, whether they're going to another ministry position or they're going to whatever it is, I think sometimes we struggle because of the emotions of loyalty when someone leaves us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We do take it personal, and maybe we shouldn't take it so personal, but we feel like we've gone into battle with these people. And it's almost like, for me, and I've even noticed it with my kids, for me, they just kind of become a part of our family. And my kids even take it hard when people leave because they become so attached to them that it's almost like a member of our family died.
Yeah. Well, and I think Taylor's worked for 4 different churches in your lifetime. I don't know how many you've worked for.
I don't know. I've lost count by now.
Not really.
I think about 5 total.
Okay.
Including this one, about 5.
And I would say that I was really deep with ministry partners and churches and organizations, about 3 or 4. And when you make those transitions out, there's always that opportunity for us to as first of all, as leaders, for us to view the person leaving as in a negative light.
Yeah. First, I want to say this because when I was leaving a previous ministry, one of my former pastors, really not even when I was leaving, it was before that season transition came about. He shared something with me that has stuck with me since then. It was actually Pastor Charlie Tuttle, and I say this, it really was an impressive thing on the backside of it. He said, Taylor, part of my role as your lead pastor, you coming to work for me, he goes, yes, I do. I want the loyalty. I want you to be here. But I recognize that part of my role is to help steward the ministry that God has called you to, that most likely will be beyond you serving me. And so good. I don't look at you as a forever staff member of mine. And because of that, I'm going to help steward you so that you're better for the next position. Now, I recognize that there are some people who spend a lifetime in ministry at one location.
But that's a rare group.
It is.
Especially it's becoming more rare.
Yeah.
The younger guys, myself included, I'm a old millennial. Truly, I'm an old millennial that, we don't view loyalty to a place or person. That's just not a high value for us.
Yeah.
So we make transitions sometimes where what's the best place to live, or the money aspect of it's not even as big of a factor anymore.
Yeah. I think that's a great observation, because for Gen X and boomers and those old and our generations, loyalty, personal loyalty is a higher value. It means you stay long.
Yeah.
Where research shows that the way a millennial defines value, loyalty is, I'm going to be fully committed while I'm here. But
right.
But when I leave, I'm going somewhere else. It's not about tenure. It's about attitude.
I think the days, I just recently did my wife's uncle's funeral, and in his obituary, we talked about him. He spent 35 years at Exxon, at the same plant, 35 years. That day is, that generation is, man, you're just not going to find that anymore. So transitions are inevitable, right?
Right.
It's happening.
Yeah. Well, and millennials, a lot of things millennials want, we don't want just necessarily a job. We're looking for where we can make the greatest impact.
Yeah.
And sometimes, kind of Taylor alluded to this, sometimes millennials will take even less pay if we can make a greater impact or bring or make a greater change in the world.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, you see that with brands and companies that are coming out with things. Hey, buy this, and we help kids in Africa, give them water. And
Well, yours is a generation of causes.
yeah. I mean, we would rather, we're going to buy this water, even though it's $5 versus $1.50, because I'm helping kids in Africa, even though I never see them.
Right.
That's just the way millennials are.
Well, I think that's a great thing for us to talk about, because so many, so many of the current pastors that are out there, are still come from that high loyalty component. And when someone leaves, they take it personally.
Yeah.
But what you said, Taylor, as senior leaders in churches and in staff, I mean, I even remember when I was in business world, I got in trouble with my bosses. We were a medium-sized construction company, but most of the people that, I mean, I worked there 18 and a half years, and there were guys that had been there 30 years.
Oh, wow.
And so these guys are all working in this company together. And when we had somebody that was a rising star, and they worked for me, and I knew they didn't want to do that long term, I would help them get into college. And then one day I'd say, hey, they're leaving. And they're like, what do you mean they're leaving? And I said, well, they're going to go do this. And my bosses were upset. They were often upset with me because I had facilitated, that's their dream. So I made sure they went to college. I made sure they did those other things to get there. And we, as leaders, we have to have a kingdom mindset. We have to be loyal to the kingdom before we're loyal to people, and even loyal to our local church.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because we have to understand, especially in the Assemblies of God here in North Texas, and I'm sure this is probably everywhere else, our minister pool is aging. And so if we're not building up leaders to send out, we're not going to have just enough pastors to cover all the churches in North Texas.
Well, you run into that. I mean, the mainline churches, whether you look at Presbyterian churches and you look at Lutheran churches and you look at Catholicism and you look in Southern Baptist circles and across organized movements of faith, the ministerial populace is an aging populace.
It is.
And when we hold on to somebody too tight, and we don't allow them to transition, when we don't see it as our role to help them fulfill the call of God on their life in leadership, then I hate to use this word, but I mean, it really makes us a little selfish.
Yeah.
And also it makes the transition harder.
Yeah. Tim, one thing I think we all wrestle with this, I know I do, is you get a couple of things. You get comfortable with your team. So there's this, man, I'm so used to doing ministry with you guys or leading with you guys. You've learned me. I don't want you to go, because it's hard. Not only is losing you hard, but having to retrain somebody, we feel like we lose speed there. I think transitions get difficult when people are leaving us because there's emotional attachment, beyond me and that person. But what ripple effects is this going to have amongst our team and our congregation, our organization? Are we going to lose people because they're not with us anymore? And it doesn't, I think if we keep the kingdom focus and go, God knew, whether I knew it as soon as it was going to happen or not, God knew.
Yeah.
And if I'm truly going to be a person and a leader of faith, then I've got to know that God's already working to I'm going to use this word and it's going to sound bad, but like to replace the person that's stepping out, right?
Yeah.
Like God's already raising somebody up or sending us, or God's got this.
Well, I think one of the other things that's a value of transition that, as you were talking, Taylor, came to my mind, is that new people on the team brings new life, new perspective.
Yeah.
And sometimes we just, to keep us from getting into a ministry rut, transitions keep us sharper and keep us on our toes a little more.
And what happened for me is before all these transitions out, I actually brought in a wave of new people. And the new people, what happened with the new people is they pushed the people that had been with me for a while, they actually pushed them harder and made them go, you know what, I'm not giving. I've kind of got stuck in a rut and I'm not giving. And so some of my transition out this year was because I brought in some fresh blood, some higher quality leaders that push the other leadership to do more than they had before. And that kind of facilitated some of that. And so some of the pain that I experienced this year came from some good decisions I made at the front part in the end of last year. And it really, it's when the dust settles, God's church is going to be better off for it.
Well, I think you just alluded to the fact that it also makes you sharper as a leader.
Yeah.
Okay, so here we are coming up on the end of our time. We've actually gone a little bit longer than we normally do, but it's okay.
Yeah, got 3 big personalities.
Yeah, I know. Hey, but let's start with saying, Taylor, what's your takeaway?
I think my biggest takeaway is just the reminder that God's sovereign enough to manage the transition for us. That he knew it before. He knows what needs to happen in the middle of it, and he sees the back end of it, and then really just keeping the kingdom focus. People, they're not my people, they're God's people, and we do this together.
All right, let's do a new thing. Todd, what's your takeaway?
Yeah. All right. For me, the thing that Taylor's mentor said to him kind of stuck with me, that, we are here to shepherd these people's ministry journey. It's not just up to us to shepherd them while they're with us. It's up to us to shepherd them, their journey. And I have some guys that have left our church that, still contact me from time to time, and I'm still there shepherding their journey. So that kind of hit home with me, that some of these people that God's raising up may leave me one day to pastor their own church. And I've got to be okay with that, because that's what's best for God's kingdom. It's not about Todd's kingdom. It's about God's kingdom. Yeah.
I think leaders often say that, but walking it out is hard.
It's hard.
So the question I would leave with our leaders today and with our listeners is what are some transitions that may need to happen in your ministry? Can you identify those transitions, whether it be a program, a process, a person? What transition needs to take place to keep the ministry fresh and sharp going into the rest of 2020? All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
We're going to do this one more time, right? One more time.
We'll play Taylor's death song. I mean, his last farewell on the next one.
Oh my goodness! All right.
The transition has begun.
Yeah, we'll transition fully in the next episode.
Okay, that's good. All right.
If you would like to keep this content coming, all Tim and Todd ask is $1 per show. See how to give, maybe even sponsor an episode or series on the website advancement.cc. Until next week, continue to advance the mission of Jesus.